Join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you all. We're going to start with a motion and a second to approve the agenda that's before us.
So
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. We'll move on to open forum. It looks like there's 2 people signed up. We will start with Linda Klein. And Linda, you can sit where you are. You can stand where you are. If you'd like to use our podium, it's completely up to you.
Okay, I shut off my phone because I didn't want it to ding.
And now you need.
And now I need it.
Well, of course.
You want to do the other person?
Sure. So Janine.
Starting off really good.
And just to go over open forum rules, just real quickly, you have a couple minutes to talk, and then,
I'm sorry, how much?
couple minutes.
couple minutes.
Okay.
I won't cut you off if you have more to finish up. And then we don't always address your concerns right on the spot, because it's the first time we're hearing. If we can, we will, or we'll say later, someone will get back to you. Okay, so Janine, are you ready to start first?
Sure.
All right,
More
great.
than happy to.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll just come right here because I have a couple of things. The first one, so I'm Janine Hansen. I live in Wyoming. And thank you. Very happy to be here tonight. Thank you for your service. I know there's a lot going on. I came here to vote today, and I was rather shocked that I was sitting at a table, my husband and I, and the woman that works at the front desk had to be in the room, and there was no privacy screen, which I think is a law. There were a little box, and so I felt very like, and I said, geez, I'm really uncomfortable with you sitting right in front of me. She's like, well, put that box right there. So anyway, I got 2 of these that you can put on the table so she can be here and people can have their privacy when they're voting. Oh, because I do believe that's the law to have something like that. The county probably has privacy screens, but Walmart, very good. So anyway, and I also asked her, because I had heard from other people that had voted earlier that their votes were done and put in the envelope and just sat on the table. Like, they need to be locked. So I asked her today, she goes, oh, I'm going to put them in the safe. And I said, well, can we watch you put them in the safe? So we walked down the hall and put them in the safe. So I would ask that that's part of the process, that every voter gets an opportunity to have that privacy, to be able to see their ballot get put in a lockbox, or in this case, in the safe. So, anyway, my first experience at that. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the referendum. I have talked to a lot of people in the community and at the recent festivals in Wyoming and in, what was the? Schaefer. They're both on the same day. And there were a lot of people that don't know there's a referendum on the ballot. I'm on the email list from the school. Last year, we got an email from the superintendent, from the school board saying, hey, there's an election coming up. It was a general election, so people knew, but there's a referendum on there. Here's where to get information. There's school board seats. Here's where to get information. And so I would ask you to please send out communication to everyone on the email list, the parents and the community who have cared enough to sign up to be on the email list to get the information out there. Put information on the referendum, what it means. And I've gone out to the site and read through everything on the referendum. And last year I came, there were 2 open forums for the community. And I came to one of those and asked some questions, and which I thought was great. Some of the school board members were at each one, superintendent was on at each one, and this year there's not that opportunity. for the community come and ask. So if you can do it, I would highly recommend putting it on a calendar before election day so that people can come and ask. Because I know a lot of people last year asked, where is this money going? You know, where is some more detail on what's being spent? I appreciate that the levy is a lot less than last year, but there's no, like how much is the roof? How much are the parking lots? How much, you have to have that information somewhere. And people want to know, what are the details? At least, you know, what's for each project? Where is that on the building side? Where is that $23 million going? And, you know, break it down so people can see a little bit more than, because I was like, oh, resources page, great. And then it was like, okay, here's a summary that's on the other pages, but there's no more detail in that. And I'm hearing a lot of pushback from the community. So I'm just, sorry about that, pushing a table. I'm just asking you, please, if you have any more detail on that you'd like to share now, I would love to hear it. Like, what is that breakdown? The levy, I think people understand our per student spending is pretty low compared to, you know, a lot of places around, but, oh, there's somebody driving. It just joined. Sorry. So anyway, if you have more detail on what's the breakdown, I mean, how much is the fire retardant stuff or sprinkler system or whatever it is, how much are the parking lots and the roof and the doors on the middle school building? Those are my main things for today. So please provide privacy when voting and then break down on the referendum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you doing, Linda?
Good.
Are you ready? Okay.
Okay, my name is Linda Klein and I'm a resident of Chisago City. I'm a Christian, I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm a wife. And I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, well, you've got kids, you've got grandkids, so you can understand where I'm coming from. You answered how long I have to talk, kind of, sort of, but can it be a conversation as well?
Generally, it's not. Generally, because if we're hearing this for the first time, we need some time off and to think about it.
Well, I don't think my questions are really hard. I guess my first question is free speech. Are we okay with that in this room? That people can say what they think and mean what they say? Nobody wants to answer that. I guess my question, because this is all very new to me, is what is the school board's authority and what are their responsibilities? Can you tell me that? You've all been elected to your positions.
And we can certainly get you that information. I mean, so where are you headed with this question? I'm just curious.
Well, I want to know what your authority is and what your responsibilities are for our kids in the schools and parents' rights. And okay, as a resident of Chisago, can I go into the school's libraries? Sorry, I turned it down. You don't know, or yes, no? How would I find out? Okay.
Yeah.
I can answer that. I mean, if you have those questions, I'm more than happy to meet with you. Or
Okay.
make sure we set you up with one of the principals to talk about that piece.
Sure.
So if there's something more specific or just more general, absolutely can have that conversation.
Okay, if you could let me know how I could get
Yeah,
in touch
absolutely.
with you, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, how about the kids' curriculum? Would I be able to find out that?
Well, I think we all probably have an answer for that, but that is certainly, you can get that. We have a curriculum coordinator. I think the best way for you to address all those answers are to go through Brian Beats, our superintendent, and
Awesome.
we're just kind of like, I think we all have an answer. And I'll be honest, it kind of feels funny sitting here, all having an answer and not quite sure how we should answer that. But there are
Yeah, I don't-
answers.
I
Every
don't
one of
want
your
to put the
questions.
fear of God into you
No,
or
no.
anything like that. I generally want to know because I do a lot of research and reading. And I was on the website for the school board, okay? And I came across this officer, of the reviser of statutes, Minnesota administrative rules. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but as I went through that, my first impression was, wow, our teachers have to be, psychiatrists or psychologists. They've got to be, they've got to wear so many different hats. How do they have time to teach the kids when they're concerned about racism and gender identity and culture and different languages, and like, are they supposed to be multilingual? I mean, to me, all of this that came out of the state puts an awful lot on our teachers. The refugee stats, if they're, their nationalities, I mean, all their socioeconomic status. And then it also says along the way here that the teacher is supposed to strive to get equitable, I can't say that word, but you know what I'm saying, outcomes. How do you do that? I mean, I've been to school, there's bright kids, there's not so bright kids, there's kids in the middle. How does the teacher strive to get equal outcomes? God didn't make us that way. God blessed one person with science skills, one person with language skills, one person with math skills. I'm questioning, what are our kids facing? And what opportunity? I also copied out a letter that was written by several of our House of Representatives to the Honorable James Mortensen. Do you know who he is? He has something to do with the schools. And they're stating statutes that we have in our Minnesota law that these rules are going against. And so they're expressing their concern about what's happening in our schools and what our kids are having to deal with.
He's the administrative law judge that handled the policy changes for teacher licensing, the Professional Educator Standards Board, licensing board. So he was the administrative law judge that handled all of the challenges to what the changes they wanted to put into those licensing standards.
Okay, so they wrote to the right person.
Yep.
Why, they're stating actual Minnesota law that these rules are breaking the law. And it's like, are you guys aware of that? The other thing I would say is, he addresses parents' rights. He addresses, he's saying a lot of the terms lack definition. Teachers' supplies and demands, ignoring locally adopted standards. Maybe I'm speaking to the wrong group of people, and if I am, please tell me. I was really impressed with the one principal that was here a few months ago, and he put out a poll. He put out a poll to parents, students, and teachers about your cell phone policy. How about asking the parents and the students and the staff here or whatever, how they feel about what is happening in their classrooms now? I'm not here to tell you that I know exactly what's happening, but again, I research, I read a lot, and I know that they don't have a CRT class and they don't have a gender identity class. It's interwoven in their language, in their math, and their science. And really, do our kids really benefit from this? These minimum, or this Minnesota administrative rules doesn't say anything about a teacher needs to be qualified, be exceptionally trained in her or his discipline. A 4th grade teacher, a 5th grade teacher, an 8th grade teacher, are they up to standard to teach the ABCs of what we send our kids to school for?
So Linda, could you finish up your remarks?
Sure.
And then we will make sure that if you have questions directly, that we'll work hard to make sure that we get them answered.
Okay, I appreciate that very, very much.
Yep.
And thanks for hearing me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. All right, that concludes open.
Brian, did you want to?
Can I just make one response? I know we're not, before, Linda, before you leave, I'm gonna make sure I get your contact information.
Okay.
I want you to know some things you shared tonight. I'd love to have a conversation and get some of my right people in the room to talk about that.
Sure, I love
So I
that.
know you're talking globally on some things that are out there and stuff.
Mhm.
I want to make sure you understand that some of the concerns you have brought up tonight are not things that are going on here, but
Oh,
again,
that is, would be awesome. to
let's
hear.
talk though, because again, I want to get you with, for example, one of the speakers we have tonight is my curriculum person. I'd love for you to have a conversation with her to talk about some of those pieces. Even some of the aspects you talked about with teacher preparation, we do have standards, we have to have highly qualified teachers, and we're fortunate in this district to have many of our teachers highly qualified who are going through and doing the good work that needs to happen. So I'd love to give you all that information, because I know there was more of a big sort of sense of the things you're talking about. Want to try to get that more precise and to give you some good information to say that the work that you're expecting to happen in our schools, not just here, but other places, is happening. It's happening at a very high level. You stick around tonight, one of the presentations will talk about our success academically and the things we're doing to move kids in the right direction. Love to hear the success because we're a leader in the region for the work we're doing.
I'm just really concerned about kids.
No, Linda, I don't want to speak out of turn either. That's how we do this is somewhat, we're not quite sure how it all goes either. And we don't often get questions like you have, but there's an opportunity for you to come in and view classrooms and have a tour, talk to some of the people that are in charge of our buildings. I think that might be a good way for you to see what's written on paper sometimes, and then what happens in the local. There's a lot of teachers that are really would be happy to have you and talk to you and at least give you an idea of what goes on in their individual classrooms. And you could all set that up through Brian and through our curriculum coordinator as well. So
Wonderful.
we want you in the schools to see what's going on.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to board committee updates. Any board committees?
Yeah, we met and, we're just going through, they're trying to do more programming. We have a aquatics director now, and I think we might have we have one.
Yes.
But that was in the process of hiring someone to help with, programming for the adults and things like that. So they're moving forward, you know, we had a lot of discussion because this is really the only second year that it's been fully open since COVID, so. And it's busy, there's lots of people.
It's busy. Good.
And I had, the only other one I had was a Taylor's Falls PTO, and they're working on their fall fundraiser. Custodians celebration was this week, things like that.
Any other committee updates?
I'll just add, we're having an insurance meeting on October 2nd. That's coming up. And after we open the bids, and I've heard some things about the bids, but I think we'll probably hear more about what went on in the opening of the bids and, how that affects all of us. And then, Josh or Sarah, do you want to talk about custodians? I know we do have another negotiations meeting on October 4th. You want to say anything about that, or I can?
Just that we're coming together, and we can't say anything too specific, but we're working hard toward getting the right contract.
Yeah, I would just add, I think it's been very cordial. It's been really, I feel like it's just an open conversation, not a lot of rhetoric. And I think we're starting to get someplace where we're really kind of enjoying talking to each other, finding out more about their jobs and what their challenges are. Because, we're not there with them side by side every single day, so it's good to see that. And I think we're coming very close together financially. I think that probably is, any employees, it's their main thing that they're concerned about. And I think we did come very close and probably even above maybe some expectations. So it's good to see that we're moving closer. Maybe one or two times more, we'll hopefully wrap this up. So it's been a really great process. I think both of you and Robin.
Yeah, I would say that. I think it's been a positive experience for everybody.
We've also met with the certified, with the teachers union. We're making progress. The teachers union just started talking about some of the financial requests. So we're just kind of getting started with that. Again, it's been cordial. Everyone's working well together. It's a process. So, but it's going well.
And let's see, we had a C meeting. Sarah and Jeff and Brian and I attended. And we heard from the Morris Leatherman group, and they had done some polling just in Minnesota, throughout Minnesota, to see how people were feeling about all sorts of issues, but mainly related to education. So they provided some statistics about how Minnesotans were feeling about things, and gave some valuable insights, I think, in how people are feeling.
It was really interesting, and I didn't bring it tonight, but if any of you want to see it, I can bring it to the next meeting, because just seeing that sort of snapshot of how it's fascinating and important to what we're doing.
And sometimes C will, after the meeting, like a week or two later, say, here's a whole replay of the whole meeting, and then we
Oh,
can
good.
send it out. We'll see if that happens. If not, we'll get you the information. And then was there anything else you would comment about C, those of you that were there?
Well, I happen to sit next to the executive director, which is really a great opportunity to talk to him. I'll be honest, I've been critical of C, because I want to see some progress. And one of the things that I think you do is you kind of hear what's going on and maybe get a snapshot of what it's about. And then you go yourself, kind of Linda, what I hope you're going to capture when you get a chance to come in and actually, see what's going on in our schools. You start to see what's really happening there. The information both of us got, and I think was hopefully shared with you, was where we are financially with every other school in the district. And that, and then I got the question, I had a chance to talk to some people on social media about it. Like, if we do pass this, where does that put us? Where does that put us with everybody else? And there are concrete, factual numbers that kind of show where we are, that I think that's kind of the information our community needs to know too. I guess it's always a tough time disseminating how do we get that information out there, because it's there. But the thing that was really interesting was the surveys that are done and how valid they are to us understanding, at least not necessarily sometimes the truth of what's going on, but how people feel about what's going on. So I think that was really good. It was a great meeting for me to see boots on the ground a little bit about who C is. And I think it's a very worthwhile organization once you start seeing. And I think they've made some progress legislatively to help us, schools like us that have not a lot of levy or not a lot of funding, and how much lower we are compared to the average, and how can we hopefully move up a little higher. But the truth of the matter is we are underfunded in comparison to other people. And that chart, I think, is really a good one
I
to
just
put us
pulled
in.
it up. I just pulled it up just as an example. So there's 328 school districts in Minnesota, and we're 263 out of the districts in terms of funding. The very top district in Minnesota gets $22,000 per student altogether for their funding. In Chisago, we get $12,000 per student. We get $10,000 less per student than some of the top funded schools in the district. So the chart is really revealing about where we sit and what we're asking for, and where that would still probably, I don't even know if it would land us in the middle of school districts in the state.
So it moves us up about 30 places, which is still far below the average number, the median number. So.
Yep.
But it moves us up. And certainly we hope that passes, and we have a lot of detailed information of where that's going to go. So I do think you'll get that too. I'm confident that you'll get that. It is available, to it. But it's kind of like we have all this information sometime again, and thousands of people to get it out to. So I'm confident you're going to get that as well.
Were there any other committees that met that?
I'll say we have a health and safety, which is the first one of the year, coming up October 10th as well.
Okay, so that's coming up. Perfect. All right, we have an enrollment update. We don't have to act on it, but I think it's just an update. Does anyone want to speak about that? Just for our information. Okay, so we're at 3311 total.
And I had a question, because we usually have the budget number on there too, what enrollment number, isn't that usually on this sheet or no?
No, but we budgeted 3337.
Okay, yeah, that was
We're
my
down.
question.
We have talked about this in the past, and Brian, you're kind of a few months on this. It is kind of nice to see comparisons monthly, and
We talked about, I need to come up with.
and I know that's, just one more thing to put on there, but I think it is helpful for us, and kind of because so much of our budget obviously depends on individual people, students we have. It's kind of good to see where we were a year ago and kind of how we were through COVID and when we changed month to month. I think it's good for our people to see that when you have a few $1,000s attached to each student, what that really means. If 10 15 students less. It really does have a,
I usually do one for
Dramatic
myself, but it's just, this comes from Michelle Kennedy, so she usually sends it to Jody, but I can get something.
Okay, we're moving on to test results. I believe we have Sarah online with us. I saw her appear for a moment.
There she is.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for accommodating me. I'm a couple hours away. Do you have the slideshow too, Michelle, that you can present? Thank you. All right, I just wanted to do a brief overview of our most recent test scores so that you can see. I know it's been in the paper the last couple weeks. All right, so if you go to the next slide, this is just looking at our math, MCA math results. This is all accountability, which means it also includes MTAS and MCA scores, and these are our scores from the last 5 years. And you can see in 2020, we did not test, that was COVID. So you can kind of see the rebound and, you know, the dip in 2021 after COVID, and now we've been slowly climbing back up. And then if you go to the next slide, you can see how that compares with districts in our area. So these are the schools that surround us in our conference or in our region that are pretty comparable in size. And look, you know, we're doing a nice job there in math as well when you compare us to those other schools.
What color is Chisago? We can't tell.
Oh, sorry,
What
it's
color
by
is
year. So we're the first bar on the left.
the yellow
Yellow, yeah.
on the
It's
left?
yellow, green, and blue. Those
Yeah.
are the three.
Right. Blue is the most recent year.
So it's by district, Chisago.
Oh,
and then
I
it's-
see, I
so
see,
this is
okay.
ours, those-
I
It's
see.
3 different years, 21, 22.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the number on top, 55.5, is where we were, and that's just MCA, so that's taking out MTAS. That is where we were the most recent test, and so the numbers are the most recent year, and then each 3 is the years, if that makes sense. Okay. And then if you go to the next, this is our 5-year trend on reading, kind of a similar pattern where we were prior to COVID. 2020, no testing, and then a dip down after COVID. Reading has been a little bit flatlined since then. But then if you go to the next slide, you can see how that also compares to the districts in the same region. Same chart. Chisago Lakes is the first 3 bars, with blue being our most recent data. And again, we are outperforming all the area districts around us in reading and math. And then I did want to highlight just something more specifically on the next slide regarding reading, because we've been doing a lot with reading in our, especially in our elementary schools, and it's building up into the secondary, is we look at these specific, and you can put them all up if you want, Michelle. We look at these specific subtests of reading, and that's where we're seeing some really good growth. And then over time, that should show up on our state test scores. So these are cohort charts. So when you look at that word segmenting, you take the kindergartners in 21, 22, and this is if they can pull apart sounds and words. We had 78% of our kids proficient, and they went up to 81 when they were in first grade. And these are I pulled from 21, 22, because that's where we really implemented the reading changes. So you can see if it's making a difference. Same thing like nonsense words, that's the same cohort. So you have a group of kindergartners in 21, 22 that were 52% proficient at reading nonsense words. Nonsense words, and Lori can probably explain this better for you since she's in person, but it's like little parts of words that usually are CVC sounds. Like you might take a word like nib. Nib alone isn't really a word that kids know, but if they can sound it out and say that part, they know their sounds. And then usually they become part of bigger words as they get older. So basically this chart, and I don't have to go through all of them, but it's showing that we're going up in every subtest that we're looking at in reading. So we're looking to that, hopefully that MCA score then over time will also go up. And you can see that in the bottom box, just with our elementary kids where we're making those reading changes, we are seeing scores go up. Any questions on that? Okay. Then the next chart, I just wanted to show you our graduation rates, which is a year behind. So that's a delayed measure because students could still be graduating over the summer for 2023. Our most recent data is 2022. And so we were at 93.9% of our students graduate in 4 years. It's higher if you look at over 7 years. And then on, outperforms the state, as you can see there. And then on the next chart, you can see that same comparable to those same districts. And we are, again, the highest in graduation rates in our area as well. So that is, I think that's everything. Just on to kind of the big ticket items that kind of look at how we're performing as a district. Any questions?
For Sarah before she signs off.
I have one question. Thank you, because this is really good to see. I've been digging into a lot of these statistics from the data center. Do we ever compare, are we only comparing to surrounding districts, or do we compare to some of the highest performing schools in the state as well? Because those scores are dramatically different than our school in some cases, like 20 points or more difference.
We always, we look at all scores. For the main part, we look at schools that are the same size of us because they typically get similar resources to what we get and have similar staffing, class size ratios, all of that. But we do look at everybody because we're always looking to do better.
I'll add on to that too. I think part of our journey we try to make sure we do is that we're trying to push ourselves as best we can be, knowing it's going to impact students positively. So as Sarah said, I think sometimes if we see some other place that's doing something really well, especially if it's paired with the curriculum or the process we're using, we definitely want to make sure we go out and talk to those folks as well. And even just taking a quick look at the metro too, which is another area that's close by us, we perform very well there too. There might be a couple of outliers, and that absolutely is out there. And I think again, that's always sort of the motivation for us is we're happy that we get the results we get. We always hope to get better results because obviously until we get every kid we
Because honestly, the comparison from, when you're looking in the 40s and 50% of students meeting standards or proficiency in the subjects, to me, that's like, there's a lot of kids. That's a huge percentage that's not. I'm not placing any blame, but it's a concern to me when you see those numbers some of them are just scary when you're looking at preparing kids for life.
As a reminder, everybody too, that these are one-time tests as well, so there's a multitude of other measures as well. So even though this does show a snapshot, research will show you that again, we have to take it as that as well. There are other measures we're doing continuously throughout the year. As we talked about the individual tests we do with kids that are showing a much different story as well. So I think that's part of it too, is that years ago, there was a huge centralization on testing. We had a test. It was the no child left behind. Everyone's at 100%. And they recognized that, again, that wasn't really the right method to go to. We had to sort of take it back a little bit and say, let's focus on the practice in the classroom and know that the journey is more important than a one-time shot. So I think that's the cool piece as we continually sort of, again, dial things in. I appreciate Sarah's work and our teachers' work, especially when I think about the letters curriculum that we're using. There are constant measures happening on a continual basis, where if you go into a classroom and watch, within just a lesson that's being taught, the amount of times we're checking in for knowledge understanding is incredible. So again, it's neat to see that, again, we have built so many great systems of success within the classroom. And if someone's struggling too across the board, we have other measures in our programs to say, hey, we see it. Let's get you over here real quick to get a little remediation intervention and get you to B. So those check and balances is one of our hallmarks, I think, in this district. So I really appreciate that. Again, it's that whole journey we're taking into consideration. But in the world of accountability, the individual times we have to monitor and check, and that's a good, again, litmus test for us as well.
Okay, any other board members have questions for Sarah before we sign off? Okay, Sarah, thank you for the presentation. I know you're out of town, so thank you. All right, let's move on to Director of Business Services, Robin. You have an update for us.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I have a couple updates today. I have a monthly update. This is kind of that time of year where the Business Services Department is working in 3 different school years, 3 different fiscal years. So right now we're in the middle of our FY23 audit. I know a few of you have heard that and maybe talked to some of our auditors. We're 1 week down, 1 to go. Things are going well though. Working in the current year, and this is what you're seeing on the screen here, we're only 2 months in, so it's not showing us a lot yet, but staying within those budgeted areas, and very comparable to the last 2 years that are showing on here as well. And then we're also working on next year's levy limitation, and you'll see that at the end of the board meeting when I talk about that. I'll discuss that with you later as well. Any questions on just the monthly? Any board members? Like I said, we're only 2 months in, so it's not showing us a whole lot yet.
Thanks, Robin.
Yep, and then I also have, sorry, a couple more things.
That's okay.
A budget timeline. I shared this with the finance committee. I feel like we met so long ago, once about a week and a half ago. These are just preliminary the beginning dates are ones that are probably set in stone. Preliminary dates into next year, just because we don't have board meetings set yet from January through June. So that'll be dependent on that, but just a couple things to note on here, cutting back to 2 finance advisory committee meetings. So I know Brenda's happy about that. But we are adding a state of the district address that Brian and I will be doing in January to the staff, just to try and get out in front of the staff. So instead of asking people to come to an advisory committee meeting in the evening, we're gonna go to them. So those are the big changes there. Otherwise, it's pretty standard, you know, but this is the start of our budget cycle for next year already. So FY25 that we're talking about already. And then the last thing I wanted to bring to you is a quick food service update, just because we know all meals are free again this year. Last year they paid, the year before that they were still free with COVID. This is just a quick update from our food service director, Laura Sterzan. You can see that our breakfast counts, and these are only for the first, were they 11 days? 11 days that she gave us. The breakfast counts up 305 a day, each day. Lunch we're up 415 per day, and you can see our a la carte sales were up as well. So we're looking at, I mean, typically counts go up more in October, so I'll keep you up to date on more of this, but I just thought this was some good news that kids are eating. That's good. We want them to eat so that they can learn. But yeah, it's also bringing in some more state and federal revenue into the food service account. So
How's our staffing doing for all of it? Are we able to?
We did have to add some staff at the middle school. That was one kitchen, and we had to adjust because of more kids eating, that they just couldn't keep up. So I mean, that's a good time to add them, right? When they're getting those kids to eat. So any other questions on anything?
I have a question. I just want to encourage you guys. I think that's great, the State of the Union thing. I know we're always wanting people to come here, but I just love the idea of let's go out there.
Well, we're trying to find different ways to get people to hear our story, and we thought through the finance advisory, we bring more people in. That wasn't happening, so now we're trying to come up with some different ways. Thank you, though.
Thanks, Robin.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we're moving on to the superintendent update. Brian.
So I'm gonna dump off your comment right away, because we've been doing that as well. So part of something that I started sort of this year was I want to reconnect with our cities. So I've actually been out to 2 of our cities to do the state of the district address. We've been to Lynchburg so far and Chisago City. I've got the other ones on our agenda and we'll leave for the month of October. So we're excited about that opportunity to have that connection piece so we can talk about our story, what's going on, and more importantly, how we value the partnership we have. And I think it's important because, again, having that intentionality, spending some time with our city leaders to sort of share our story has been a really nice piece for us to reconnect and just have that sort of, again, bond together. So that was good too. So appreciate that. And yes, anytime we can get touch points, I think is really important for us. Ticket fees, I want to talk about sort of our new ticketing process a little bit, because I know that, again, as we've sort of launched into this piece, it's been a journey. So just a couple bits of history, because obviously I picked this up since I've started a little bit and heard more about it. But I know that obviously, again, we sort of transitioned an online ticketing process this year. We were one of the last ones sort of do it in our region, in our conference and sort of area overall. I think part of the reason what I'm learning from our folks is that, again, we want to see other people go through it, hopefully learn from that process so that our transition would be a little bit easier in doing that piece. I think going through recognizing there's some pieces that, again, we need to think about and look at again. Specifically with the processing fees, there is a processing fee that is established with that goes, again, to pay for the process overall. And we talked about that piece, and I guess as a piece I want people tonight to hear about, especially the board, is the fact that as we've talked about this piece, we're going to go through and come up with a solution for that the next week here and communicate out to our families and community about that piece. So again, every time we have something that we're endeavoring to do, The goal is always to make it as seamless and as user-friendly as possible. And if things come up, I think we have to have, again, the courage to accept that feedback and just talk about what are some ways we can do things differently. So just know that's gonna be coming, and it's more just making sure we're getting everything right and figured out before we sort of put the message out that here's a plan moving forward. So I want you to hear that piece too. Since we have our student rep here tonight, I'm not gonna take the homecoming piece, I'll leave that for her to talk about, but I'm just gonna say it's been exciting to watch the energy across our entire district. I know it's been a lot at the high school, but also the elementaries and middle school. It's been really neat to see that too. And then last but not least, I'm just gonna talk about, I know you're aware of this already, because I've shared this before, but our CT department at the high school won a very prestigious state award for excellence. They are going to be recognized tomorrow in St. Cloud for that accomplishment. In addition, they will also have the opportunity to be recognized at an international level at a conference, I believe, in Tennessee in March of 2024. I will tell you, it speaks towards the good work we're doing. I love the fact, especially at the high school, there's 6 career pathways. We're providing students an opportunity to go either way, college or career, and really more importantly, have those doors open up so that, again, they have every opportunity they really want to have. So just want to shout them out because, again, I've already talked to them and just congratulate them, but I'm just so proud of the work they're doing, excited about the fact that's happening here in our district. And then a shout out to Sarah and all of our staff on our test scores, our results, and for performance across the board. I think the one thing that maybe she didn't mention, I'm just going to sort of throw in there too, is again, let's face it, the last 5 years have been really tough. We've gone through a lot with the pandemic, and it's been hard on kids. I'll speak personally from my own son, who's a 6th grader this year. It's been a tough transition. But I love the fact as we started this year, the energy we have in the buildings, and more importantly, I'm seeing the progress, not just with all of our students as the scores show it, but I can live with my own child as well. I see a different student that's coming to life, and I love that piece about it. So again, really appreciative of our staff. They're doing great things each and every day with their students. And again, from a personal perspective, I'm just happy for our students because again, when you can see a student understand, comprehend, and get something, that light bulb moment, there is nothing better in education than that. And we're seeing a lot of that going on right now. So just appreciate our staff in that perspective.
Thanks, Brian. Kendra, welcome. Kendra's now our senior school board member and will be doing some interviews and getting a junior school board, or student school board member in the next couple of weeks. We've been in contact with the high school principal, but we wanted to give you a chance in case there's anything you wanted to update us on.
Well, it's homecoming week, and so there's a lot of stuff going on. There's all the themes we've already done. Monday was, actually, I can't remember.
Was it Adam Sandler Day?
I think that
One of
was,
them was.
that was Tuesday, I think. And then, yesterday was, Barbie versus Oppenheimer, so like the movie. That was really cool to see. And then today was throwback to middle school. So that's how you went in middle school. And then of course tomorrow is Wildcat Pride. There'll be a Pet Fest tomorrow. Senior picture was taken today, like big group photo. And I think the high school, the football team is gonna be going around to the elementary schools tomorrow to see the little kids, which is super cool.
It is cool.
Did they put you on the bleachers for that senior picture?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just a little wet this morning.
I wondered about the rain.
Yeah, but it was okay, it went well.
Good.
I don't know if there's any other updates. Me and my friend have actually been talking with the principal, Miss Yackley, and one of the sheriffs and a couple of resources about, we started a little coffee shop in the concessions in the commons at the high school. And it's donations that are going to Free International, which is a program that helps rescue victims of human trafficking, and it helps them kind of heal and get back on their feet, give them the resources that they need. So that's really, I think that's really cool.
That
We do it
is
like
really
twice a week, and we even printed out like stickers to put on the cups that have like a QR code and like resources and stuff for anybody that feels like they relate to something that might be going on in their home that they're not aware is like a red flag or something. So
is it students staffing this coffee?
it's me and my friend Lainey and Audrey, and they're it's like twice a week before school. So, and I'd say we make pretty good coffee, so.
Well, despite how the coffee tastes, what a great venture for you
Yeah.
guys to undertake.
Yeah,
You should be really proud of that.
it is a really cool thing to be a part of. I wasn't initially part of it, but I have coffee experience from my job, so I got kind of pulled into it, and I was like, this is really cool. So, it was really cool to be like directly in contact with Miss Yackley, and she helped us set the whole thing up, and I think it's going pretty well, so.
Thanks for sharing that
Yeah.
story. That's a great story to share. Thanks, Kendra.
I don't think I have anything else. I think we will talk about
Did
it.
Mrs. Yackley talk to you about potentially going to like student council and the National Honor Society and different groups to kind of talk about the opening of the school board at all? Because
Oh.
we
she
may
did
connect
talk
on
to
that
me.
and just have you be
Yeah.
an ambassador towards.
Yeah, she did talk to me about it. I kind of forgot about it a little bit, but
Okay,
I feel like I have a lot of friends that are on the school board. I missed the deadline to get on it.
oh, so
but
the student council meetings?
student council, yeah.
Okay,
Student council, yeah.
okay.
So I think that there's some
word is
good
getting
junior candidates that would be really good on the school.
Oh, good, good. So people have questions and they can ask you what it's like to be on the school board?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Does anybody else have questions for Kendra? Well, thanks for being here.
I got something for Kendra.
You have a question for
So
Kendra?
Kendra, are you a part of putting all this stuff together, the committees and all the activities for the week?
I'm not, that's the student council shop, but my two best friends are both on it, so I've heard a lot from them, and
So just to understand the impact you have, how old are you?
17.
So my daughter is 7.
Yeah.
And I had to get her a Wildcat shirt tonight for tomorrow. And she is so excited to go to the football game. So kudos for you guys for what you're doing. That's huge. I'm blown away. My daughter asked me this.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's very good. So I had to say that.
and it's really cool.
Thanks, Kendra.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda, which includes claims and accounts, computer payables, some resignations and leaves of absences, some coaching contracts, and so on. So after you have a chance to look at them and ask any questions, we'll need a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda.
I have a question about the American Indian Education Consultant Agreement. Is that a new position or have we always had that?
No,
I don't
it's a consultant that we're getting for for this year. In the legislature last year, for this year, they increased our American Indian revenue.
Okay.
And so it actually doubled. And so Sarah reached out to someone this person, Chris Johnson, actually works in multiple districts. So she reached out to her to come and help us with our American Indian population as well.
Okay.
So it's being paid for with
Yep, with
legislative.
the new funding.
With
So,
funding,
yep,
okay.
correct, yep. Good question.
Any other questions about the consent agenda? If not, we need a motion and a second to accept it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept the consent agenda items.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. Next is our C membership renewal. The dues are attached. We were talking about our last C meeting and sort of the value of the networking, the information we get, the statewide information, speakers we have, and so on. So we just need a motion and a second to accept our membership for this year.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second it. We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. We have no old business as of now. Looks like we have some new business. We have to set our January organizational meeting.
Can I speak to it real quick?
Yes, please do.
Obviously, the organizational meeting is the first Monday. That's the recommended date from MSPA, the Minnesota School Board Association. That date is January 8th. And we just thought, since we know what's coming up, just so people can be prepared for it, we can put it on the agenda and then get it approved for the meeting date, so.
Okay. So that would be our organizational meeting for the new year, January 8th. Does anyone foresee a problem with that? If not, we need a motion and a second to accept that.
I still move to accept January 8th as an organizational meeting day.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Did you have a question,
I
Josh?
did, is this like an all day thing?
No,
Okay, so like,
no,
so, go ahead, explain the meeting.
so that's the first meeting of the year. Maybe you'll remember when I start talking, but it's
Yep.
basically getting set for the year. What are the rest of our meeting dates? What are our committee
Oh, got it.
assignments?
I remember
Are
that.
there
Yep.
new board members we're bringing on
Yep.
board? All of that.
Yep.
Yep.
Got
So it's a regular school board meeting.
Yep.
We're getting organized. All right, did we vote? No. All in favor of accepting January 8th, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, we're on to donations. Let's see what we've got here. Is anyone speaking to those tonight, or should we just look at what we have? Okay. Looks like we have some activities donations. The first one is the First State of Wyoming, State Bank of Wyoming, and it looks like it went to our community ed. Sorry, I'm trying to increase the font. I can't see.
I think the rest of them are all activities then.
Are they all
Yeah,
activities?
Yeah, except for the
Okay.
first one that was community ed. Otherwise, they're all of the activity donations.
Okay, so the first one is for esports, $250. You can see additional donations activities for our, regular school activity accounts. Midwest Bank donated $1,200, X Media $700, and I think
These are the sponsorships.
these are the
Yeah.
sponsorships. They come at kind of at this time of year,
Correct.
every year, right?
Yeah, and-
Okay,
It's instead of, and I can talk about that,
okay,
different sports used to go out and hit the same businesses up for the same thing. What they did in the athletic department now is as a whole, and they sponsor as a whole. So they're
Just
not just
one time.
sponsoring a sport, they're sponsoring, they can choose packages. Do they want the fall sports? Do they want the spring sports? Do they want all of them? And done. It's all
so that we're
done
not
through one.
bothering
Correct.
businesses so often.
Correct,
right?
yep.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's what these are.
So there's a number of these that are giving their one-time donation, and we're super thankful, obviously, for these donations for our athletics.
If you're at the homecoming game, you'll see their signs on the fences.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's what these are.
okay. And I think since it's so generous, I'm just gonna name the places real quick, if you don't mind. Lindstrom Chiropractic, NAPCO, Rory Bloom, EFS Advisors, let's see. Lindstrom Family Dentistry made a donation. Mary Ann Tours made a donation. Arcona Escrow. Midwest One Bank and X Media, and I think I read the original one, yep, Wyoming, First State Bank. So we're thankful for the donations. We'll need a motion and a second to accept all of those.
I'll make a motion to accept the donations.
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. All right, we're moving on to Clem lane changes. And we do this every year, and it's for teachers who are earning enough credits that it's moving them along in the salary schedule. And so they're all listed for you to see. And unless there's questions, we need a motion and a second to accept the lane changes.
I make a motion to accept the lane changes.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions about the lane changes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. The lane changes pass. All right. Let's keep moving here to get to the right spot. Okay, we're moving on to the resolution appointing election judges for the 11/7 special election. And let's see, it looks like it's a resolution. So we'll need a motion and a second, and we will do a roll call vote as we do with resolutions. Jody Davis, our administrative assistant, who's helping to set up the election, is very sick and is not present tonight. So it's part of the reason why we've been punching on a few things that Jody normally takes care of as the election judge, but she's been sick this week. So Is there anyone who needs to speak to this, or are there any questions about it?
This is just a listing of the judges that we've had, and they've been in and been trained with Jody, and Heidi Miller is actually helping Jody for a lot of these things as well, but these are the ones that we have so far. There may be more added, if we can, hopefully, because I think there's a few more that we need.
Correct, and we're in a good place right now with this list. I mean, I think the goal was in talking to our county about the elections was to get a certain number. We'll get the list in front of you, hit that number and exceed that a little bit, so I think we're just trying to make sure we have enough backups just in case. So they've worked really hard. I want to give Jody credit for the work she's done. She's really hustled to get a lot of this stuff organized, so I appreciate that.
And just to kind of clarify, when it's an election like this where it's school questions on the ballot, we run it as a school district, and we have to use people that we have in place in this office who are not normally people running elections. So it's different when it's a general election. We can just get our stuff on those ballots and the county runs it, or the cities. We're running it ourselves. Jody's gotten a lot of education on this in order to do it, but again, she's been out this week sick, so. Anyway, just as way of explanation, I guess. So we need a motion in a second, and then we'll do a roll call vote to accept these election judges as stated. I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Josh, we'll start with you.
Josh, aye.
Sarah abstained. Henson Stedler, aye.
Brenda, I.
Jeff, I.
And Lori, aye. Sarah is on the ballot and decided to abstain, just to be on the safe side. Okay. All right, let's keep moving here. All right, we have some policies that we need to okay. And we have the policy committee members, or we have Corey here if there's any questions. But we have, these are results of the recent legislative session. So we have one on policy 506 on student discipline, policy 516.5 on overdose medication, policy 902 on facility use and facility use charges, with policy 515 on protection and privacy of pupil records. And we have policy 524 on internet acceptable use and safety policies. So did the policy committee want to comment on them at all? Or are there any questions about them? Or Corey, did you want to comment on them?
I don't really have any comments unless you guys have questions. Obviously, we can read through them. They're all pretty straightforward. I would just say the 516.5 on the overdose medication is considered a new policy, but because of legislation putting it in July 1st, it's only a first reading, and we do comply with the law at this point where we do have an overdose medication, 2 doses in every building across the district.
I think the only one that's local is the facility use charges. That's our, not directed by legislative
Right,
action.
and I will say on the facility use charges, the only reason they're here, you guys approved this back, this form that's out back in, I believe, May or June. What we didn't update was the policy 902 that is attached to during that time. So these are already approved. The facility use policy 902 is what was not completed at that time.
So you're saying the charges have not changed?
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no questions, we need a motion and a second to approve the first and only reading of these policies.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. The policies pass. All right, we're moving on to our levy limitation and certification. We're back to you, Ms. Robin.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. What I have in front of you tonight is the preliminary levy limitation and certification form that we need to approve by, you think that one's fine, Michelle. I have 2 documents in here for you, and what I did, the one comes right out of the huge 39-page small print levy limitation and certification. And then what I put up here for you is just to compare what has changed from last year to this year. And this is, what I'm going to request of you is to approve the maximum, is what I usually ask in September, because there's still some changes that may need to be tweaked on this, and they usually give us until September 30th. which is tomorrow, basically. So there won't be a whole lot of change. But what we're looking at here is, you can see some of the increases and decreases in the levy, the different levies that we have. And I know we've had a lot of talk about levy. This is a little bit different. These are some of the levies that we have that are not voter approved. Our capital levies, our reemployment, safe school, career and tech, some of our facilities, our community ed has some levies through it, and then our debt service, which are some of our voter approved and non-voter approved. So you can see we've got, in total right now, it's a 1.73% increase in levy, which results in about $192,000 in local levy. Just want to remind you that just because a levy goes up doesn't mean our revenue goes up, because our state aid could go down, and that's happens in a lot of these places. So actually we have an increase in levy of $192,000, but we have a decrease in state aid in a lot of these areas of $143,000. So it's really only a net increase of about $48,000 in these areas. Does anybody have any questions? And like I said, this is just the preliminary. I'll bring it back in December when we certify it, and that's when we'll do truth and taxation, and I know that's Brenda's favorite
Why do you
meeting.
always point me out?
Because you always tell me how much you love it, because we'll have truth and taxation, we'll have the audit report, it's gonna be a phenomenal meeting.
I can't wait.
I know, you love it. But that's when we'll bring back the final levy to have the board actually certify. Anybody have any specific questions on any of these?
I have kind of a general question about this levy. Is this levy, we have to spend the dollars from this levy very specifically?
Yes.
Could you explain that?
All of these are tied to legislation and statutes.
Okay.
Yes. So like operating capital, if you look at that one, it's saying the levy actually went up $62,000, but the aid went down. It's tied to statute that we can only spend that on capital equipment or capital projects.
Okay.
So as an example, reemployment insurance, that's anyone that files for unemployment outside of the new legislation on unemployment over the summer. But that, we levy for that amount when someone files for unemployment insurance. So that pays for that. State schools, that pays for our SROs that are in the district. Community education, I mean, that's obviously tied in early childhood ECFE, an ECFE class, which I'm sure you'll get to do in the next couple of years, Josh. That's what those monies are for too. Does that kind of help you?
Yeah, because it looks like this paying for the nuts and bolts, not necessarily maybe some dream projects or different things like that. This is really, looks like to me, this is very much so, this is nuts and bolts, general. We need this to keep our bills going.
And these are all tied to legislation. You know, at the bottom, the debt service, the top line there, that is our voter approved debt service that we have right now, and that's for the building we're sitting in right now. That's one of them. But that's one of them. And the top one, the voter approved referendum, is at the top too.
Josh, one thing I know that's near to your heart as well as mine and many of us is career and tech ed, and through legislative action and lobbying, 35% of salaries, travel, equipment, supplies, those types of budget items are reimbursed or reimbursable through a local levy. And our CTE numbers went up because those programs are more expensive to operate, and a lot of times it takes a lot more equipment, supplies, those types of things. So legislative action gave us 35% opportunity to levy for those types of funds. And so that line item right there of 349 and
We need some legislative action to increase that.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure you remember when it was a lot
be,
higher too.
it used to be 50%. And then it would drop down to lower, and then it was nothing, and then it was back down to 35. So all those things are done by lobbying efforts and those types of things. But we know how near and dear those are to many of us. And it's nice that legislation gives us action to be able to do that. And I think in part, that's why we have a vigorous CTE program in a lot of different areas. And if we didn't have that, it would be much harder to maintain that number of teachers in those particular areas, which we are receiving. Everybody gets CTE money for 35% reimbursement across the state.
If you have a CTE program.
Correct, if you have it, and
And
they're
they have to be- and
certified
they're teachers,
teachers,
yeah.
and we have, I think nearly all of ours are. That
All
is,
of them are, yes.
this year, and we have ways that we actually really work hard to get our teachers certified and help get that certification, because it means something financially to us. So all those things are legislatively done for us. So.
I'm sure you know this already, but again, this is a similar process for every school district in the state of Minnesota. They'd have this exercise of talking about it in September and then approving it in December tied to the truth and taxation. So it's not just the Chisago Lakes, every school.
I call it
district in the state does it.
usual and customary. And like I said, when I said I'm working in next year's budget, this is actually the 23 pay 24, which is for the 24-25 school year.
Okay.
So that's where I said I get to work in 3 different years. This is the 3rd year. So we work on this from July until now to get those numbers in there. And then, like I said, by tomorrow I need to file it with the Department of Education and then our counties here, Chisago and Washington.
Are there other questions about certifying the levy before we vote?
And certifying the max.
The max, yep, the max, which we do
It
every
just
every
gives us
time.
that little bit, my 1 day of flexibility left here. So.
Yes. If not, we need a motion and a second to certify the levy at the maximum amount. I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign. Motion passes. We're down to adjournment unless anyone else on the board has anything else they'd like to share.
Well, I do. And I think it's important that somehow we address this test scores in a future meeting or somehow, because I think Sarah did a really good job, and I got 38 years of looking at MCA scores and all kinds of test scores. And when you look at them, I think the general idea is, Janine, that I think you brought up that, okay, we're at 58% or 53% or 50-50, let's say. 50 are not passing, 50 failing. It really is a benchmark, and it is also a comparison to us to see where our school is compared to other schools our size that have general funding and those types of things. But there are other measures of success, and I think Brian's alluded to that as well. We led the nation in ACT scores, which is a general college entrance exam, and Chisago Lakes was a point higher than Minnesota. Typically all across there, I know some of those numbers have been skewed over now this with the COVID, and we did away with ACT scores because they were, all the different educational challenges that we had. But we had 11 children sitting around this table that have gone through Chisago Lake School, including 2 of my own. We look at the success of those kids going through and coming out and what they're doing now, and where they come back home and they teach for us, and they are in the jobs in our communities and the successes that they have, and the national merit scholars that we have, and the amount of money that we put out for funding for education and the scholarships that we give, and then so you really have to be careful using one little snapshot of that test score because it really is a comparison. And by the way, that's a dang hard test that kids take one time, and if you put all that weight on one time that every kid takes,
On one day.
and we really do educate every single kid in our district from the cradle to the grave. I mean, if you really think about it, pre-K to 12. And so I want to just say, I think we need a better explanation of those and really what they mean in the snapshot that provides us. But there's a whole lot more things that we really do measure the success of our students that go through Chisago Lakes.
Yeah, and I think too, we were sitting at the C meeting with districts from across the state last week. And the Department of Ed was there talking about this new Read Well initiative that's in legislation at all school districts now. We're getting back to phonics. Like you have to have a science of reading curriculum in your district and you have to be teaching strong phonics. And districts all around us was talking about their struggles in getting their teachers trained and the money it takes to get their teachers trained to meet these new standards. We are leading in Chisago Lakes. We are the only district in the state who already has a literacy coach in place. No, everyone else has to add it now. We have ours. She's wonderful. And if you look at the slides that show our elementary kids and the gains they have made, I mean, there is magic happening in this district in the area of reading. Our scores in the elementary schools are hitting the roof, and I'm not exaggerating. By the time they get to the point they're tested MCA level, like already, our elementary MCA scores are in the 70 percentile. I mean, this science-based reading in our district is one of the strongest in the states. So people don't know that. People are looking at this one snapshot of one high school score, but really sitting around with all these education leaders and listening to their struggles of just getting their teachers trained. We have nearly every single one of our elementary teachers trained. We have, this year we're doing our middle school and high school English department teachers and a few new teachers, but basically we're caught up. We used some COVID money to get our teachers trained. We have people coming from all over the state, the Department of Education, to watch our teachers teach reading. I mean, we are, and Sarah Schmidt is off unfortunately now, but she has led this charge, and it has put us in an enviable position. So I just wanted to say that because I know a lot about reading. I'm a reading intervention teacher myself, and we're really doing awesome in reading.
I just jumped in real quick. You said this up perfect for me too. Because again, I think it goes back to one thing I've learned in being here in the short time I've been here is we have to tell our story. I think that's part of the message we're trying to carry out. Not only the interaction we have with individuals, but also in the public, whether it's the city presentations, the work we're going to do to communicate stuff out, because there are a lot of hidden gems here that we need to start talking about. A lot of really great accomplishments, not only on our staff, but more importantly on our student side as well. And I think, speaking towards the prowess we have with our letters curriculum, I'll also say that in general with, again, some of the partnerships we're developing too. I will say we've had a university come out in the last week and do a visit to our Lakeside site and our high school campus as well. And the amount of praise that they said, my goodness, you were doing things that nobody else in the state's doing, and we want to partner with you. So I think, again, we have to be proud of talking about these pieces, share with other people so they can see that success. And like I said, and then also have those opportunities to, again, bring value to our district. That's going to make it better for everybody else as well. So I agree with all of you guys. I won't be there a short time, but I'm really proud of our staff. I'm proud of our students. I appreciate our support from our families and communities. It takes all of us coming together to make this work, and it's a special place. Really grateful to be here.
Thanks, Brian. All right, anything else before we adjourn? All right, we need a motion and a second to adjourn. I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
No one wants to go?
No one wants to go.
Everybody wants to
Keep
stay?
going.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Against, same sign. The meeting is adjourned.
I said,